Scissors, rulers, pins, all great sewing tools, but which ones should you get? And more importantly, which ones are the best for beginners? My name's Chad, I'm your tall tailor, and today we're going to be ranking the best beginner sewing tools so I can help you decide which ones you should get to start your sewing journey. We're going to be ranking these on a tier list. You guys have definitely seen tier lists before with S tier on top and F tier on the bottom. I actually made another tier list video. I'll link it in the top in the description so you guys can check that one out. I just wanted to preface this list by saying that all these tools are amazing and serve their purpose, but they're just not all necessary to get immediately. And to be honest, some of them only serve like a niche purpose or have alternatives. So I'm not ranking them on their effectiveness because, they're all amazing, they're all pretty good, but rather on how essential they are to get. I'll be dividing these tools up into 4 categories: measuring tools, cutting tools, marking tools, and miscellaneous tools. All right, let's get started with our measuring tools. First up, we have a yardstick or meter stick, a long ruler, really good for pattern making and just getting pretty long straight lines. Although this is really useful, I actually don't use it as much as other rulers, so A tier. Next up, we have an 18-inch and 12-inch ruler. These are the rulers that I use the most, and they're both pretty good. Not so long that they get in the way, but also not so short that they're unusable. S tier. Third in our measurements category is the French curve. Perfect for a variety of curves on the body, collars, necklines, armholes, pretty much any curves you need. S tier. Tape measures are next, and this is a sewing staple. They're usually like 2 or so yards long, and you can find some that are about like double the length and great for a variety of measurements on the body. S tier. Okay, so last in our measurements category is the seam gauge, a really small ruler with a sliding gauge that's good for measuring hems and, like small stuff like that. But honestly, you can literally do most of what a seam gauge does with other, regular rulers. So definitely more of a convenience thing. C tier. Wait, actually, there's one more thing. These retractable tape measures, they're usually like really cheap and on keychains and stuff like that. F tier. Bottom tier, matter of fact, Z tier. Put this all the way at the bottom. These things suck, they're cheaply made, and they always break. So just don't get these. Wait, let's move on to our second category, cutting tools. First up, we have our heavy hitter scissors. These are self-explanatory. Literally everyone has used one of these before. Easy to use and maintain. A tier. One thing I do want to mention though is that make sure when you have sewing scissors, don't use your fabric scissors for cutting anything else. You just don't want to like prematurely dull them or anything like that. Second, we have rotary cutters. I don't really like these too much. They're pretty good on curves, but besides for that, scissors can do everything pretty much way better. And you got to use this with a cutting mat, so you're pretty restricted with the rotary cutters. Not to mention that when the blades dull, and they will dull, you got to buy new ones, so it's more of like an expensive thing over time. So I'm going to give these a C tier. Next, we got snips. These are pretty much just like little scissors, so A tier. Lastly, we got the GOAT of sewing, the unsung hero, the people's champ, the seam ripper. An essential tool for sewing because no matter how good you are and how skilled you are, you're bound to make a mistake here and there, and that's where these are for. S tier. Our next category is our marking tools for holding fabric in place or marking it. The first one we're going to look at are pins. These are also pretty self-explanatory. Just make sure not to use them on leathers or materials like that because they are going to leave holes. S tier. And when pins don't work, we have sewing clips. These are pretty good for corners and edges of fabric. They don't leave marks when you use them, so really good for delicate materials. They definitely don't have as many use cases as pins. So like for example, if you want to like top stitch a cargo pocket onto a pant leg or something like that, you won't be able to use fabric clips to secure it, so you'll have to use pins. But they're still an amazing option to have. B tier. We have our tailor's chalk or tailor's pencil next. This is an essential for marking fabric, and if you get the washable ones, they're even easier to use. S tier. Our last one in the category is hem clips. Pretty much just clips that are specifically designed for measuring hems and stuff like that. They're usually more trouble than they're worth in my opinion. I'll have to give these a D tier. Last category for this video is the miscellaneous stuff. Pretty much anything that didn't fit in the previous categories. First one is, and you knew it was coming, the iron. If you don't got one of these, yo, just hang it up, go home. Sewing ain't for you. but seriously though, with the proper iron and ironing board, you can really elevate the look of anything you sew. I gotta give these S tier. Matter of fact, put these at like S+ tier. Next up is presser feet. All of them, every single one. No one in specific. Walking foot, zipper foot, buttonhole foot. They're all great and can really make sewing leagues easier. If you're having problems sewing a material, try looking it up and seeing if there's a specific pressure foot for it. It'll definitely make the job easier. There are dozens of these since they make one for pretty much every use case. A tier. Thirdly, we got tweezers. I mean like the long ones, not the ones for your face. They really help when it comes to rethreading your machines, especially your serger. Trust me, trying to rethread your serger without one of these, you'll know exactly what I mean. B tier. Next up, we have hand sewing needles. Honestly, you probably have a couple of these just lying around your house already. Hand sewing needles come in handy during, a variety of situations. Whether you're like repairing a small rip or even doing some embroidery, there's a reason why everyone who sews has a bunch of these. S tier. And lastly, we have a sewing awl. This is used for making either small holes on the fabric or marking fabric, and also helping with feeding fabric into the sewing machine, like if you're doing bias binding or bias tape or something like that, and a whole bunch of variety of like random use cases. I honestly don't really use this too much, so C tier. Okay, let's round out this list with a little speed round. Variform curve ruler, B tier. Right angle ruler, A tier. Sewing gauge ruler, D tier. Pin cushion, B tier. Razor blade, also B tier. Plinking shears, D tier. Sewing needle threader, B tier. Bodkin or loop turner, A tier. Point turner or corner turner, D tier. Fabric weights, F tier. And tracing wheel, C tier. So that's my list. Let me know if you agree or if I missed anything. Thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to comment down what tools you guys have and what tools you'll end up getting in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.